Hey guys, and welcome back to the Layah Heilpern show. Today we have a really amazing guest. There's so much happening in the crypto space right now. We need an update. We need to sort of navigate through what is happening. So, joining me on the show today, we have a major crypto YouTuber. He's an educator, an investor in over 100 different crypto startups. So, I'm really happy to have Virtual Bacon on the show. Welcome. How are you?
Great. Great to be here, and thank you for having me also
Yeah,
here.
it's great to have you. There's just so much going on in the space right now. It looks like we have this pending bull market coming. Nobody really knows, whether we're going to actually crash down even further. So I'd be really keen just to get your take on where you think we're at in the market cycle right now. Obviously we have the spot ETF coming very soon. So what's your take? Are you bullish right now, or are you still quite playing it quite cautious?
I personally, I'm definitely bullish. So I think we're getting to that point of the market cycles where if you like to follow the 4 year cycles, now is about the best time right before the halving event when most people are still in the disbelief stage from the retail audience, but uh, people that have been around for a couple of cycles are starting to get in very heavily. And I think the fundamentals, the events coming up in the next year, is also very, very clear of the timeline and their potential effects.
Mm.
Yeah,
And obviously, we have the Bitcoin spot ETF coming out in the US very soon. So I'm curious, what's your take? How do you think that's going to affect the market, if it's going to affect the market at all?
I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there also around this. People say that the ETF has been around across the globe, even for spot
Yeah.
ETF for Bitcoin. But I think there's a major difference between one that's launched in the US market versus other markets. So, yes, I would say outside of US, maybe it's a little bit more
Mm.
saturated, but really the true big money comes from Wall Street, comes from TradFi, and they need this kind of regulated instrument with trustworthy custodian and just in a market that they can play with. So I think it will have a major effect. Now, us as crypto native investors, we are definitely small fish compared to these guys. So I think whether the cycle will play out exactly like we
Mm.
predict, that's going to be harder to say. These guys might come in and play their own games, but I think long term definitely bullish for Bitcoin in terms of adoption and potential new money coming in.
When do you think the spot ETF will be approved? Coinex, one of the leading global cryptocurrency exchanges, is celebrating its sixth anniversary. And to mark this event, they've got some incredible campaigns and events lined up just for you. The exchange is offering huge prizes of up to 186 USDT for each new user. So, if you are new to the crypto world, this is the perfect opportunity for you to kickstart your journey. To claim your newbie bonus and dive into the world of crypto with Coinex, simply click on the link in the description below. And there's more. Coinex is not stopping there. On December 18th, they are launching the Future Trade Board, where you can join and share a whopping 20,000 US dollars. Click on the link in the description to participate in the Future Trade Board event. It's a chance to showcase your trading skills and to be a part of an amazing celebration. And also, don't forget to check out the other incredible events and campaigns Coinex has in store for its 6th anniversary celebration. You can find all the details by visiting the anniversary link in the description.
I like to play safe on this prediction. So I think so. The latest deadline that I've seen is March next year,
Mm.
which is when BlackRock's application and all other applications are kind of within 1 week. So and based on previous rejections from SEC on these ETFs, they usually take the maximum 240-day range. So that will lead us right into March next year. So I think I'm personally waiting for March. I think we will have it for sure. Now, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, end of this year,
Mm.
etc." That could happen, but I think we have already seen quite a bit of fake news coming up with market chopping up and then coming back down again. So I think it's a definitely harder to say. And I think from now until March, there's only 5 months away. So between 2 months and 5 months, rather play it safe. So myself personally, I'm betting on March next year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, we've had so much happen this year that it feels that it would only make sense for it to come in the new year. It would be too much of a rush to squeeze it in before the year ends. Um, yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, and I mean BlackRock, these guys like to
Yeah.
take their time to really use the news, however, to their best advantage. And so I don't know if it will be just like everyone says, end of this year, it's just going to happen. I
But
don't
do you
know.
think it's going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event? Because that's so much of what we see in crypto, where a lot of the things are priced in, especially when you have like blockchain upgrades and things like that, updates to different networks. When the network is updated, the price doesn't do what everybody says it's going to do. It really is a buy the rumor, sell the news event. So do you think that the spot ETF will be the same?
I think I think potentially
Okay.
yes, not long term, but I think there's kind of two sides to it. First, there's what BlackRock needs to do leading up to the launch of the ETF. So they have to get things approved. They have to see the ETF, make their purchases. That's going to be the initial kind of driver, real liquidity driver. And I think that most likely have already happened because we're only a couple months away. So now, once the news comes out, well, if they need some initial liquidity back from that, maybe there's going to be a sell the news happening right after. But then once the ETF actually launches, when BlackRock's clients can come in, I think that's more of a long term
Mm.
game. And um, I don't think that's going to be right away when the ETF gets approved within 1 month. So, yeah, that's why I think probably March, April ish, there's going to be decent volatility. And I don't think it's going to just straight up shoot to all time high or anything like that. Yeah, so definitely still being cautious.
Yeah, no, I have a very similar opinion. I don't think it's priced in necessarily, but I do think that simply just because of how scarce Bitcoin is anyway, there's only, ever going to be 21 million. And, all these major institutions having to buy up Bitcoin is going to really take a hit on the supply. Like, I think it's going to be naturally a scarcity event. And so I think it's going to be really fascinating to see. But I agree with you. I think it's not going to be straight away. It's gonna have a much slower but a much more impactful long term impact in the long term, I think.
Yeah, I think we should see a lot more, Fortune 500 companies get into Bitcoin with their treasuries, but that's not going to take like overnight, even with the new
Yeah.
ETF. So,
You know what's funny? I'm having so many debates with people right now about where we are in the market, and I do agree with you. I'm also extremely bullish right now because I'm a strong believer in the 4-year cycles. So obviously we have the Bitcoin halving coming soon,
mm,
but so many people are telling me that they think that we're going to crash one last time. So I'm curious: do you think that all the bad news is behind us? I mean, literally this time last year, almost we had the FTX crash. We had BlockFi, Celsius, Luna. It's pretty bad what happened to crypto investors. So do you think it's behind us?
yeah, I think so. I don't think the cycle will be so
Mm.
smooth because usually during kind of this last stage of the bear market, there's kind of one
Yes.
event that causes the market to crash a bit more. And I think this time around, there are some potential, headwinds that could come up. There's a lot of, speculation around Binance,
Mm.
around Tether, a lot of industry-wide news. And I think the time window between now until the ETF gets approved and the halving happens is uh, something could
Yeah.
happen. I am in that camp. Now, is it going to be like a black swan event where it crashes, make a new low like previous cycles? That's going to be a bit harder because we already have had major
Right.
crashes. So this cycle's lows were really very, very extreme because of FTX, because of
Hmm.
Luna. So I'm in a camp that kind of bottom is
Yeah.
already in, but bumpy roads will continue to play from now until, let's say, April next year.
Yeah, I share the same view actually. I mean, we just have to look at 2019 and 2020. We thought the bottom was in at 3K, and then obviously COVID happened.
Yeah, and
The
then
world locked down in March 2020, and then Bitcoin
yeah,
obviously crashed 50% down to 4K. But it recovered very quickly. So that's what I'm really open to in this cycle. Like, I think we're gonna have another crash just because the world is so volatile right now. Like, we have wars going on in Europe, war in the Middle East, we're on the brink of World War III. So I think, from like a macro perspective, everything is extremely volatile. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see that crash. However, I expect a V-shaped recovery like we saw in 2020.
I think it's really going to be more of a strong volatility in the market
Mm.
than a very likely crash for sure. So another scenario that people have proposed against the sort of smooth 4-year cycle starting is for BlackRock coming in and potentially bring Bitcoin towards new all-time high even
Mm,
before the kind of halving cycle happens, and then price comes dropping back down again, really mess people's psychology
right.
up, the people that follow these cycles too quickly. So I think something like that could even
Oh,
happen,
I hope that
and
doesn't
I
happen.
just think yeah, it's going to mess people psyche up really. And honestly, now that the TradFi guys are in, is it going to follow exactly like the 4-year cycle? I think that's the real question here that could still have more volatility. So yeah, I think it's more about looking kind of 1 to 2 years ahead at least, and in order to avoid this last period of like bumpy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think, if BlackRock were to get the ETF approved before the halving, um, it's a matter of just looking at what Bitcoin does and looking at what the price does. Because if it looks like that kickstarts a bull market, well, then you have to look at it like it's a bull market and as if the halving has just happened, and then sort of
Mhm.
like take it from there and count, the next like 18 months from there, rather than counting it from when the halving happens, because that's initially how people look at those cycles.
Yeah, people tend to look at like 6 months
Yeah,
after the halving. Usually it really starts to kick off like the Christmas after the
yeah.
halving. But now we are still quite a bit earlier than that. So if it starts even before or right after the halving, yeah, the timeline will be all
Yeah,
messed up.
so just take profits basically. Just take profits.
Yeah, take profit, think long term,
Yeah,
and
no,
yeah.
exactly. You have on your Twitter, on your X bio, that you've invested in over 100 crypto projects. So, what are you bullish on for the next upcoming bull market then?
So I think some sectors are definitely making a comeback, and some are way too overplayed. So I think the Ethereum killers, the layer ones, are definitely way overplayed now.
Mm,
That's going to be heavily transitioned into layer twos. Even layer twos are a little bit. The leaders are definitely leading. I think things like Arbitrum, Polygon, Optimism. These guys will continue to do well. But I think if you're still running a layer one, I'm kind of bearish on them unless you have a very strong, unique vertical that cannot be replicated on Ethereum. So that's one side. And then I think crypto gaming it has had a very extended bear run now that I think it will make a
mm.
comeback, both in terms of the timing of these games that just went into development around 2020-ish. It's finally becoming ready to have first wave of compatible games that are you know pretty impressive even in the Web2 players' eyes. And then you have the infrastructure stuff that's uh, actually focusing on real adoption this time instead of all the gamified DeFi stuff that happened
Yeah.
last cycle. So I think long term, yeah, still bullish on crypto gaming. And then I think last one would be more decentralized web or decentralized social
Mm,
media, or just overall something that is harder to censor and harder to
yeah.
manipulate in terms of like online information and how people perceive perceive others and interact with others. I think that's a big trend that is very naturally
Mm.
building up, and the clear solution here is blockchain, is crypto, and I think that's one area that people could pretty easily get into.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I also agree, just because we've seen so much censorship over the last few years, and I think people are just tired of it. People want a solution desperately. But it's
Yeah.
interesting because every bull market I've noticed has its thing. It has its boom, whether it's like ICOs, whether it's the DeFi summer, NFTs, the metaverse. So if you could pick one thing that's going to be have the hype in the next bull run, what do you think it's going to be? Or do you think it hasn't even been invented yet?
So I think there's two sides to that. The narrative side is, well, the few that I'm bullish on, but I think the core kind of technology or way for people to speculate on these instruments, I don't think that has been invented. So we have had a few of these, like you said, ICOs in 2017. Then we had DeFi farming in late 2019, early 2020. We even had NFTs. I think you could definitely count that.
Yeah,
Minting the
for sure.
NFTs, trading them between each other. That's another speculative instrument. That was technically, I think it was an invention that was able to collect capital very quickly. So I think either we recycle the old ones and kind of tweak them a little bit, it just becomes ICO 3.0, or something else gets invented. And I think there's kind of a this cycle's DeFi moment. I think Frentech, something like that is interesting. It was kind of showing the early signs of that,
Yeah.
but how their economics are designed a little bit too aggressive for the team. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
I'm curious about AI. I thought perhaps AI would be the next thing. I know I don't actually have the stats off the top of my head, but I know that a lot of crypto projects that integrate AI are doing extremely well. So, for example, if you have some kind of like AI trading bot or something, which integrates AI, then it's doing extremely well. But I don't think that that's going to be the next boom. I think a boom in crypto has to be really native to crypto, right? Like it can't be something using
Yes,
crypto like AI.
everyone gets it. This is the next ICO, next DeFi
Right.
farm. You can clearly calculate your ins and outs, the returns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It has to be
yeah,
related to crypto.
yeah. The trading bot stuff is interesting. I think it's tapping into a definitely much more mobile audience, and you can trade on this chat interface on Telegram, Discord. Uh, that's and there are sides of that kind of unlocked different ways of trading on Dexes. I think when people snipe these new tokens with the trading bots, I think that's a pretty novel concept that wasn't around even in 2021 when DeFi was first popular. It was really a kind of an expert's game. Like you had to be a coder before to do it, but now pretty much everyone can do it just with these trading bots. So right now it's still a power users game, but you don't the barrier to entry is much lower. So that kind of resembles how like DeFi is in late 2019, where people could start to get into like new DeFi tokens if you just knew how to play with the right app on your MetaMask. So yeah, something could go towards that direction. Yeah.
Okay, well, interesting. And I kind of want to get your take on NFTs because NFTs went crazy. I think some of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, so some of those pieces were going from like 150 to 300 ETH at the top of the market. And I've seen Elon Musk
Yeah.
speak about it recently, and he actually thinks it's dead, the NFT market. So, what do you think? Do you think the NFT market is dead? Do you think it will recover? Do you think we'll see, those highs of like 300 ETH for an NFT?
So 300 ETH is
Insane.
definitely way
Yeah.
overextended, and yeah, it will be
Right.
hard for that kind of market cap to come back. Now, I I personally do like Bored Apes. At least there's only a handful of NFTs that I think could make a comeback if NFT market gets liquidity back in again. So I like Bored Apes. I like the few like community
Hmm.
run projects. I think um, stuff that's fairly launched or things that have like relatively good adoption even in the bear market without having to raise large amounts of money. So for example, the Pudgy Penguins, I think they're pretty interesting. How this guy Luca Nets, he just came in with his own capital, took over the project, and then brought it to Walmart with a partnership without raising large amounts of funds. I think that's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. Um, but overall, NFT market stats definitely dead
Yeah.
right now. Most projects, if they are, this is kind of what I consult people as well. Like if you're trying to launch an NFT, even if it makes sense in your platform, in your game, I would kind of push them towards launching token instead for now,
Mm.
because pretty much for the past year, no good NFTs have launched and remain higher than their
Right.
launch price. So yeah, the interest is just not there. I think a large reason is because too many of these projects, they took the easy way out of at the peak of the NFT market. A lot of these top leading projects, they went to the VC route. They raised large amounts of funds from VC capital, and then they are forced to deliver. So by delivering, essentially the easiest way for them is to just continue to milk their brand and issue more and more, you know, sub brands under their collection, diluting the current supply and raising Ethereum through minting. So that's just, it makes sense for them, makes sense for the VCs, but completely kills the market because people just very quickly realize, oh, it's a raising money game. Nothing actually gets delivered.
Yeah. So. Well, speaking of getting things delivered and looking for those amazing projects, which we're all trying to do, you must get offered, a lot of projects to either invest in, to talk about, to promote. I mean, I know I do. My DMs are flooded. But I'm curious, how do you know if a project is serious? How do you know if it's legit? Like, what are your green flags in a project? And then what are your red flags in a project?
So I think the best green flag would be the founder. If you know the founder, if you have a direct friend that you absolutely trust and he trusts them, they are close friends, and you can meet them in real life, you know where they live, that kind of stuff. Then it's
their life is on
I
the
think
line.
that's the strongest
their life
thing.
Is on the line.
Yes. They're docs to you, they know you, you know them. And you can get a sense of the guy, right? They are in this for a reason. And I think in the bear market, the founder really drives whether the project survives or not, if they can persevere and conserve their capital and not spend too much and focus on what really matters. And I think also in the bear market, there are a lot more legit founders because this period is less frothy. So people are usually in this for a reason. Aside from that, previous track record, I think if you have, I would say, even made mistakes before, but you still choose to come back, that still kind of is a bet on the founder, but previous experience. And aside from that, like more kind of soft skills. So managing a team and really knowing how to manage your money, managing your treasury. When you're raising that money, like, do you have a clear burn rate and where you plan to spend these funds? I think that's way more important than a lot of things people consider. Like, people look at the ideas too much and the how quickly they can build this tech, but a lot of it is timing. So if you can't last till the bull market, it doesn't matter.
No, that's a really good point. So,
red flags. I don't know. Like, in the bear market, it's a good time to talk to people because people are usually they're more committed.
Anything else you want to add, or do you feel like those are the main red and green flags?
Let's see. So red flags, I have personally, like, stuff that I have experienced. If there are things that definitely are super important in a founder. So if they don't know how to communicate properly, I think that's probably top 2 red flags. Either communicating with your investors, with your community, with your team of who takes each part. I think that's way more important than people realize. Even if you're an amazing coder, I've seen so many times where you have just one guy that can code everything, but nobody understands it. I think so much of it is getting like the knowledge out there and kind of a crowd understanding of what your thing is, and even the investors understanding what you're trying to do. So my number 1 red flag with me would be not knowing how to communicate, not knowing how to talk to people.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I'm really curious, what's your long-term view on Bitcoin versus altcoins? So do you see one being more safe than the other? If so, how safe do you plan on playing it? So, for example, say that you had to hold Bitcoin or another type of crypto for 10 years. Like, do you feel more comfortable holding it in Bitcoin, holding it in altcoins? What's your outlook like?
So Bitcoin is really showing itself, even especially in this like 2024 run, because of BlackRock coming in, etc. It's very hard for these guys to go into altcoins. They have even kind of soft hinted that, we are into Bitcoin. This proof of what's the word that he said? Larry Fink, flight to quality. And he like has a very few things they're excited about at Wall Street. So I think long term, Bitcoin is still the very easy play that will continue to grow and dominate the crypto market, uh, regardless, like the pure like market cap um, potential of Bitcoin is not really too limited. You can say the same for Ethereum. I think Ethereum is kind of at that breaking point where if BlackRock comes in and says we also hold Ethereum, very similar
Right.
status to Bitcoin, it's a commodity, then it becomes kind of a public good. It's no longer a tech
Yes.
startup,
Yeah.
right? An asset class instead. But for the rest of the altcoins, I think in the last cycle, so many altcoins got way too big. We're talking about like 200, $300 billion in market cap for the largest altcoins. And that's very much pushing the largest market caps of the biggest companies in the world. So I think in this cycle, while Bitcoin does its 6x or whatever,
Yeah.
ideally, can these top altcoins reach $1 trillion market cap? I think that's a hard question to say. I think there's a higher chance that we continue to get altcoins that top out maybe at 100 to 200 billion max market cap, but we just have many more of them. Or the market just extends to so many different subsectors with smaller coins, so that the overall industry grows. So in that sense, I think Bitcoin, Ethereum, actually much safer
Right.
bets for from now until we know exactly how crypto is treated as an asset class, because they're very different. Bitcoin and Ethereum are very different from startup altcoins. There's a kind of a valuation cap that it's very hard to get over.
That
Yeah.
kind of just touches on my next question, which is really just about like your overall outlook on regulation in the US. So yeah, it looks like Bitcoin, is digital property. Ethereum, I think, seems pretty safe from being called a security. What do you think about the other altcoins? Do you think they'll be deemed a security? Obviously, XRP seems to have won the case. So yeah, like, do you think they're all going to be okay, or do you think there's going to be alternative ways that the government is able to crack down on crypto?
So I think the security question is really, yeah, I think it's one of the fundamental reasons why we saw so many Ethereum killers is because Ethereum was kind of
Mm-hmm.
cleared. So people wanted to launch Ethereum killers because they knew that for a few years it
Right.
was okay. Similar to like how these Bitcoin forks, like Bitcoin Cash, was popular mostly because Bitcoin was
Mm-hmm.
okay. And yeah, so I think now that XRP has been cleared, sort of, if we see the whole thing being resolved, I think we're likely to see it. Uh, we could potentially see payment coins being pretty well utilized, like coins that act as um, kind of utility tokens in a payment network that connect different liquidity from different currencies, etc., and assets. That's one area that I think is pretty
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Uh, Aside from that, I don't know if there are any other non-Bitcoin or Ethereum forks that have been cleared. So until that happens, I think it's kind of still pretty risky. And yeah, especially in this run when the institutions come in, it's going to be a hard
Yeah,
battle. Yeah.
definitely. I mean, we're seeing it play out right now. So I'm curious then, we have this bull market coming, but what are you currently working on between now and the bull market? Like, what are you focused on right now?
So I'm just trying to. One side is YouTube. I love making videos, so just trying to make as much content as possible and really getting my brain, like getting my constant information sources in check so that I know what's happening, following up with the market. That's probably 67 70% of my time. And then the other side is just actually talking to teams, talking to new
Mm-hmm.
founders, and making sure that, like, even though the kind of new projects and VC funding space isn't so hot yet, don't want to lose touch. So whatever people are working on, constantly talking to them. Like, I probably take average like 5 calls a week
Oh
with
wow.
with teams pitching. Uh, it'll only get more, but yeah. So doing that and just trying to be prepared, because things are only going to get more and more hectic.
They are going to get so hectic, and I'm excited. I think we desperately need a bull market. We need some bullish news. We need better sentiment. Like crypto Twitter's been dead for a good 2 years now. We need, yeah,
2 years of touching
right.
grass. It's
2 years
time to
of
come
touching
back.
grass.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's time to come back.
Yeah.
Well, it's been such a pleasure having
Yeah.
you on the show today. Where can people follow you and stay up to date with everything that you're doing?
So you can find me on YouTube, Virtual Bacon. I'm also super active on Twitter, X, Virtual Bacon 0x. And also we have, all of our links, etc. on virtualbacon.com. You can find all my other communities on there.
Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure having you on. And I'm super excited for this bull market, and I'm excited to see, your content evolve as the market continues to pump. So thanks so much for coming on. It's been great.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Great talk.